Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the Bleav network. Check out Bleav in Astros with Mike Stanton and Bleav in Texans with Cecil Shorts. And joining me is my co-host, Stephen Kerr, 65 plus years in sports journalism between the two of us. Later in this show, has Jalen Green taken the all-star jump? And what's wrong with Sengun? Also, how do you replace Stefon Diggs? Yeah, the latest there. But, Stephen, the Rockets, kind of up and down to start the season, huh?
Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it, Robert. I mean, after the first four games, I was certainly disappointed in the two losses because they were, winnable games. I mean, they could be 3-1, 4-0 right now. But the one thing I will say, especially with the San Antonio win on Monday night, they bent toward the end, but they didn't break. They made the shots when they needed to. And that's what this team needs to do, along with just getting off to better starts. And they did that in San Antonio Monday too. So, I mean, I'm seeing some positives, Robert, but, there are certainly some disturbing negatives, which I know we'll get into, that they definitely need to clean up if they want to achieve that goal of getting to the playoffs this season.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Got more Rockets in just a second, but hey, we're excited because today's show is brought to you by our new sponsor, MyBookie. It's the perfect time to get in on the fun with the heart of the NFL season, early NBA season, while you still have a little bit of an edge maybe over the guys thinking this stuff up. And maybe you're like me, noticing the Texans never covered. Well, take advantage of it. Get a little cash off what you might know, what you might not know, stay away from. The holidays around the corner too, so you can make a little extra spending money, which is always nice. And hey, MyBookie doubles your first deposit up to $1,000. That's a 100% deposit bonus. Look for the promo link and code in the description. Your code is HST, as in Houston Sports Talk. So one more time, go in that show description. You'll find all the information there. MyBookie, that's where you want to go. Hey, Stephen, I'm going to ignore the Rockets' two ugly losses because I ask our fans the question, what's the most important formula for a playoff contending basketball team? And if you ask the smart fan, they'll say the answer is an elite all-star level player. Well, after 4 games, Jalen Green's averaging 28.8 points on 58.3% true shooting, 41% from three. And Stephen, he's playing consistent, high-level defense, making good decisions in big situations. And I cannot nitpick the guy anymore. This is a huge deal.
It is a huge deal. And I know it's 4 games, but look, he's carrying this over from the end of last season. And here's something, Robert, I got some numbers on him too. He has 115 points through the first 4 games. That is the most by a Rocket not named James Harden since Tracy McGrady did it. He had 132 in the first 4 games in 2007-08. And he's made 19 three-pointers. And that's the most by a Rocket through the first 4 games of the season. And yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers going on. And I know they don't tell the whole story, but even the eye test, Robert, you have to say the guy's doing it. I mean, think about where the Rockets would be if Jalen Green had not upped his game and was not putting up these numbers through these first 4 games.
On the other end of the spectrum, I have no idea what's going on with Sengun. I wish I could tell everybody. He appears all out of sorts, and except for rebounding and three-point shooting, he's looked bad. It'd even be more pathetic if you took away that incredible first half of game 1 versus Charlotte. All I can chalk this up to, Stephen, maybe it's an injury. He's been wrapping his back, and I can personally speak to back issues. They'll screw you up, but really hard to say because he doesn't look physically limited, right now.
No, he doesn't. But, sometimes things go on behind the scenes that you just don't know about, Robert. I mean, the coaches are certainly close to it, and then the players are closer to it than we are. I don't know what else you can think. He certainly shouldn't have his mind on his contract that much. He did sign it, and, it's out of the way. I know he had a triple-double in San Antonio, and, you can look at the numbers and kind of hide some of the things that are going on, but it's not the Sengun that we're used to seeing before the injury last season. That's for sure.
Right. And, Sengun, you just paid him all this money. I don't think he's, oh my God, I'm fat and happy now. And he worked so hard in the offseason. You could tell. I mean, he's added the muscle. He looked stronger, all the stuff that we've already talked about. But, Yeah, just something that doesn't look right, and I can't put my finger on it, and I don't know if it's. I hope it's not an injury, but
Well,
I
the
mean, at least,
shooting is what's really disturbing because if you look at, now to last year, he's only shooting 38.6%. That's overall. It was what, 53.7, I think, last season. I mean, that's really below what we're normally used to seeing from him.
it's not everything, like I said, because the rebounding, it's not a small jump in rebounding. It's a big jump in his rebounding rate because he hasn't played a lot. So you're like looking, well, the average might not look a whole lot different. But if you look at the rebounding rate, it's way out there. So,
yeah, he definitely bested Wemby on one play, I remember. But there, you just have to hope that as the season goes on, that he gets better, Robert, because you need both Green and Sengun to be elite if the Rockets are going to go far this year. You have to have it.
Absolutely. And boy, if they ever get it going at the same time, look out for the rest of the league.
That's exactly right.
Very low key, though. Amen Thompson's off to a rough start. His turnover rate has doubled. His blocks, steals, assists, rebounds, and shooting percentage all down. If there's reason for optimism, you could look at his free throw and his three-point shooting, which are both up. Small sample size, but he's shooting 33% from three, 76.9% at the line. At times, I feel like he's trying to do a little bit too much, though, offensively. But am I worried? No, Stephen, but it's worth noting. And I Bleav it's part of the reason for the Rockets' slow start.
Yeah, I think you'd have to say that. And again, with some of these guys trying to kind of get things going and Amen, I mean, we know what his potential is. We know what he can do because we've seen him do it. He just needs to get more consistent. And I think with all those things you just mentioned, if he can do that, then boy, you talk about added more strength that the Rockets have, then Amen can certainly get it together. That's what you'll see.
As a very loud proponent of benching Jabari, I needed one of two things. Either Tari Eason to be healthy enough to play big minutes, or the aforementioned Amen Thompson to get off to a fast start. Neither is the case. So until further notice, Udoka needs to stick with the starters. But Stephen, that does not mean I Bleav Jabari is a long-time starter this year. He's still incredibly inconsistent on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, he had a season-high 17 in San Antonio, but he's still having some lows too. And I think the confidence is a big factor for him, Robert. That's really it. If he could just get that confidence and put a string of games together like he did Monday night in San Antonio, then I think you will see more of Jabari and less chance of him being out of the starting lineup.
Now, some good news, because we finally saw Steven Adams for the first time Monday, not moving around smoothly or quick. That's a concern. The right knee probably isn't close to what it used to be, but you could see all the smart things that this guy does that leads to winning. Just talked about this with Salman Ali last week on the show. The Rockets were plus 11 in his 14 minutes. His screens got the guards wide open shots. It's not like they need many minutes a night from him, Stephen, but we saw his importance.
No, I tell you what I really like about Steven Adams is the way he can box out. The Rockets will get more rebounds when Steven Adams is in the game. And hey, I don't know what his point total was, but I know he had at least 2 baskets that I counted, maybe 3 on Monday night. So, having Steven Adams there for the leadership aspect, the rebounding aspect, you don't need him to score a lot of baskets. You just need his presence in the front, boxing out, getting those rebounds, because I know there was a spell in the third quarter on Monday where the Spurs were really starting to get way too many second chance points. I think they had 11.
He was in there for that too.
He was in there for that. And that's what was kind of surprising is, you would have thought he would have slowed it down. There was one possession where they had 5 offensive rebounds. Now they didn't come away with a point, but that's not the point. So yeah, Steven Adams, I think he just needs to find more consistency. But when he is in there, Robert, he definitely has the potential to give the Rockets a much stronger presence in the rebound.
Yeah, that one possession was weird, and I was trying to figure out what happened. It looked like a lot of the rebounds were long rebounds, so he's not going to get those. That means other guys are going to.
No, it's going to be more inside. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so like guys like Amen and Tari, I think they might have been in, and I'm like, what? How is Amen and Tari not run this stuff down. It was very strange.
Well, they were fortunate that the Spurs didn't capitalize at all. I mean, they got no points out of that. So they were lucky there.
Yeah, strange. Dillon Brooks is always a lightning rod, even among his own fan base. I hear Rockets fans griping all the time, but you can't complain through the first 4 games, guys. The Rockets are plus 11 with Dillon on the floor this year, by far the best among the guys who've played regular minutes each game. His defense against Wemby was elite. His near altercation in Memphis sparked a huge comeback. I mean, Stephen, we know he's always in 5th gear. You got to give him his kudos.
He's never dull, is he? I mean, when Dillon Brooks is on the court, things happen. They may be good, they may be bad, but they're not boring. And Robert, I'm not a big plus minus guy usually, but when I look at Dillon Brooks through the first 4 games, he's got a team best plus 44 rating. I mean, that's saying something. Now, he was only 2 for 9, I think, on Monday in San Antonio, but he can score when he needs to. He averaged 17 points last year. So, yeah, having Dillon Brooks back there, like him or hate him, he's going to provide a spark for you one way or another.
Yeah, there might be some other thoughts on some of the other guys, but I'll save those. Those are big thoughts, big picture stuff. Minor complaint on the TV broadcast, too. I know Craig Ackerman is in love with this new Skycam view. I'm the opposite of in love. Looks like an incredible earthquake is going on, or somebody plugged in a vibrator or something like that. Just lose the Skycam until you get that fixed. And overall, I'm not much into alternate angles on live sports action. Feel free to use it in replays.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I just don't want to be abstract. The distraction, some funky angle as I'm trying to enjoy the game. No thanks.
Well, you know what, Robert, being a video guy yourself, I you know what you're talking about. You know your stuff. Just for those of you who don't know, when Robert points something like that out, he worked in the business. He worked in videography and still does to some extent. Unfortunately, I don't get Space City Home Network where I live in Austin, Robert. So I don't get to catch the Rockets games on TV, or even the Astros games for that matter. But I know that sometimes these guys maybe get a little bit too cute, a little too fancy. They're trying to show off new technology or trying to be finding ways to make things better. And there's nothing wrong with that on the surface. But yeah, sometimes I think the camera work can get a little bit too cluttered. Get the finer points of the game. You can do that kind of stuff during replays when you need to see so many different angles. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, Space City makes me think of the rocket going off, and then you would always see the camera shooting the rocket and it's shaking, and that's kind of
exactly
what I saw from the Skycam stuff.
Exactly.
Quick reminder, by the way, look for our live Texans post-game shows right after every game this year. We're about to talk Texans, so buckle your seatbelt for that. Tom Chavaria and I, you guys know it. We'll break it all down for you Thursday night after the Jets game, and yeah, we got a Halloween special on Thursday. I'm trying to get Tom to wear a costume. Wish me luck. Maybe I can do
boy.
That. Look for our full Texans Jets preview with the Jets Insider tomorrow. And please support our content by giving us a thumbs up, commenting, and subscribing for free on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. All right, Stephen. Did you get any sense how I felt about Kenyon Green from Sunday's postgame show?
Well, I was really surprised, Robert, how complimentary you were of the offensive line and just how well protected C.J. Stroud has been this year. And Kenyon Green, being the head of the pack, I thought you were never going to stop singing his praises during not just that postgame show, but all of them this past season, or for this season. Yeah, sarcastically speaking. What more can you say? I mean, I don't know. We do a podcast every week, and it keeps happening, so we have to say something. I mean, the only thing I would say, and I'm kind of with you on this, Robert, is, why not give Kendrick Green a shot? And in the trade deadline, I mean, if you can swing a deal for a guard, I don't know what you're going to be willing to give up for one, depending on who it is. But something has got to happen because that left side is obviously the bane of C.J. Stroud's existence right now.
Yeah, we're going to get to the potential, what you do there. But I had a little back and forth messaging with Seth Payne. And by the way, thanks for the shout out, I should say, too, to Seth on his radio show. But Stephen, the point I tried to get across was I see a lot of Texans analysts making this a complete failure by the entire Texans O-line, the offense, and it's Bobby Slowick's fault. It's, we're pointing fingers everywhere. Yeah, the other guys have screwed up. And you could say that about a lot of teams, but if you look at how they grade out on Pro Football Focus, there's a wide gap. Tunsil, 72.3 grade. Titus, 69.3 grade. Shaq, 66.4. Juice, 64.6. Kenyon, 39.1. It's off of a cliff. And Stephen, they never looked this bad last year, as I told Seth, even though they used 5 different left guards and 11 different starters. Kenyon Green did not play a snap. Maybe that had something to do with it.
Well, that's the thing, Robert. As much as we bemoaned them last year, is mainly with the injuries and just all the shuffling in and out they had to do. It wasn't this bad. I mean, CJ Stroud, obviously, there were some spots where he was running for his life, sure. But how could CJ Stroud have had the kind of year he had last year if you have the offensive line production that you have this year? I just don't see it. I don't see it. So, yeah, that is the key, really. The difference. Kenyon Green didn't play because he was hurt last year. We got the big thing we talked about Kenyon last year is this guy ever going to get healthy enough to play? Well, we can't knock his health so far this season. He's been healthy, but he might as well not be in there because he has been a total liability for this offensive line.
Yeah, and just the worst thing that I could have heard today, the worst thing that I could have heard. Hold me back, Stephen, because
not another Robert rant. Now you got it out of your system on Sunday. Come on.
Oh my God. I'm not doing a complete Robert rant, but just DeMeco saying, quote, "We're going to roll with Kenyon." He said, "We won 6 games with Kenyon." Well, my response is, you got 6 games despite Kenyon. Don't play word games with football fans and media in Texas. We're not dumb. I guess the only way, Stephen, they make a change is if Stroud's in a body bag or on a stretcher.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I don't know if he's just obviously a coach is going to protect his players publicly. What they say behind, in the locker room, behind closed doors, who knows? But I just think there comes a point you can't. It's like you think your fans are ignorant when especially the ones that watch the games. And I'm not talking about, really broadcast fans, like you and me, Robert. I'm even talking about how can the casual fan not miss what's going on? And yeah, maybe some of them do. So I just think, there's a different way to word it without throwing Kenyon under the bus publicly, to where it doesn't sound like you just think your fans are stupid and they're not going to see what's going on. That obviously, yes, the Texans are 6-2. The record is there. They're leading the AFC South, but it is not because of Kenyon Green and his good play. It's in spite of him, as you said.
And I mean, that means if they're saying we're going to roll with Kenyon, what does that sound like to you, Stephen? They're going back to him on Thursday.
Well, yeah. I mean, unless they, make a trade or get somebody else in there that they believe that they're going to put in there, they're going to roll with Kenyon. That's what it sounds like to me. I guess we'll find out on Thursday. But if he says it, then it sounds to me like that's exactly what's going to happen. And, I just think, I respect coaches who aren't afraid to bench players because of their lack of performance. And it doesn't mean that you've totally given up on them, or it doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, I'm going to ruin their confidence. Well, you know what? You got to put the team first, DeMeco. You got to put the team first. If benching Kenyon for a short period, if that's what it takes to protect CJ Stroud better, that's what you do. That's what you do. There are college coaches who aren't afraid to bench players, and there are even some pro coaches who aren't afraid to bench them. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans is in Kenyon Green's corner, and I don't know what it's going to take to get him out of there.
Well, a little good news anyway, before I have a few more thoughts on Kenyon and some other stuff. But the good news is Toa is cleared to play Thursday, so he's going to be back. That's great.
And especially with the linebacking core as thin as it is, you've got to have him in there. So that is some great news.
The bad news, Stefon Diggs out for the season. It's what we were all afraid of. And Stephen, do you believe the Texans need to trade for a wide receiver? Because Nico will likely be back after the Jets game, and I'm fine with Hutchinson and Woods as the 3rd and 4th options. I'm much more worried about secondary depth. But priority number 1, of course, should be left guard if they make a deal.
Making a deal for a guard would be number 1. I would love to see better results from John Mechie, but we're just not getting it. Now, obviously, with the depth they have had up until these 2 injuries, Mechie hasn't had that many chances to show what he can do. But I think at this point, Robert, yeah, you have to think about it. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get a Cooper Kupp type of guy, perhaps, but maybe someone a second tier guy who can be effective, who can step in and add to that depth. Xavier Hutchinson, I mean, he's shown some flashes. If John Mechie could, get things rolling, you would have less of a need for it. But yeah, I mean, in my mind, guard is number one, wide receiver is number two. I mean, if you can get some more depth in the secondary or even at linebacker, if you have a chance to do that, why not do that too? But those are the top two in my book.
Yeah, linebacker I'm not as worried about because Hansen and Neville Hewitt were at least adequate. Now Toto is coming back. As long as Aziz is coming back, and I guess Christian Harris, we'll just put that on the back burner. But I feel like
I think he got kidnapped to Mars or something, Robert, because I don't think he's on this planet anymore. We just don't see him.
Yeah, that was my thought. You know what? Here you go. I'll give you a name at guard that maybe the Texans can get. Daniel Brunskill. You heard of him? He's been with the Titans the last 2 years, but before that, he was with the Niners from 19 to 22, including as a starting guard on the 19 Super Bowl team. Guess who else was on that team? DeMeco, Ryans. They should have a relationship. Plus, he's not starting right now. But even though I looked at his grades over the years and 56 NFL starts, his PFF grades are more than solid. He's not starting with the Titans, so I assume this would be a very cheap option for a non-starter.
Well, would the Titans be willing to trade within their division? I don't know. But you know what the problem is, Robert? Or I don't know if it's a problem really, but anybody would be a better upgrade than, what'd you say, 38 point something? And
yeah, no question.
Grade. Even a 50 would be better than a 38 Kenyon Green. So he would be a good option, though. I mean, I like that. I like that name because, yeah, DeMeco does have some ties with him. The question is, would the Titans be willing to swing a deal with the Texans? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, I mean, if you're the Titans, you're not competing anytime soon. So if you can get some sort of draft capital, you shouldn't care who it's from.
Certainly.
Right?
No, I agree with you there. This is Amy Adams Strunk we're talking about. So
yeah, well, as long as we don't put Brunskill in a Love You Blue uniform, I guess she's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go back to the Diggs thing for just a second. And this is why I didn't like the idea of canceling the rest of Diggs' contract, Stephen. They basically gave up a second-round pick for 8 total games of Diggs now. That's it, unless they re-sign him on a value deal.
Yeah, that is a problem. And I mean, Diggs, as far as I can remember, Diggs has been pretty durable. I guess it wasn't something we really worried about too much, but that's the risky run when you make a deal like that. All it takes, and it was a non-contact injury. So that's all it takes, Robert. Just one play, one freak thing to happen, and you're gone for the season. And he got, less than half the season, really. You give up a second round pick for that. So yeah, that's the risky run when you make a trade like that.
It's one thing if you're like, oh, Diggs is going to be here for a while, then you get a second round pick, you give it up. But man, it's so, if you're saying, okay, we're going to cancel the rest of his, and I understood why you might want to motivate Diggs and maybe you don't want to put that as much money as you were going to have to pay him if you kept him around, but maybe at least try to renegotiate the contract. I mean, could that have been the worst case?
Well, yeah, here's my thinking is, well, why not? Because obviously, this was a big year for him contract wise. He was going to go for the big money next year. Well, you get yourself hurt. You only play in less than half the season and you don't know what your comeback is going to look like next year. I would have thought maybe he'd be more amenable, to accepting a lower deal, come back, do it again, basically come out on another 1-year contract next season. Why wouldn't he be willing to do that? And why wouldn't the Texans be willing to do it?
Still might. Yeah.
He still might. So yeah, I guess that would be the only thing I'd say is, why not bring him back again like you did this year on a lower deal this time? And next year will have to be his prove it year.
Yeah, we'll see. And, I don't feel like he's a big money guy. He's not a deep threat. He's just a possession receiver at this point, right?
Yeah, at this point, he's a possession receiver, but it certainly could still be a good one. The Texans could definitely use that.
No question. And, you worry about Tank Dell at all times too. So they don't have a guy that's reliably healthy at 2. And, I'm not even going to talk about Nico having health issues. I'm keep hoping that this is all just like accidental stuff? Because it's like doesn't feel like it's different stuff all the time, Steven. It
Well,
hasn't been the same thing with him.
no, it hasn't. And it's so funny, Robert, how quickly we forget just how great that depth is. And when people start getting hurt, all of a sudden, now we don't have the depth you have. It's just like pitchers in baseball. You can never have too many pitchers. But even when you have what you think are too many, you just ask the Astros. They can come back to have not enough. So you never have enough depth at any position. And especially at a skill position like wide receiver, the Texans, they thought they had it made with that. And now you have 2 injuries, but they're two key receivers, your top 2 guys, really, minus Tank Dell. But he had his injury last year, and he's not been as effective this year. So you put all that together, and it's not that far-fetched if you think about, well, maybe the Texans do need to trade for a wide receiver to get us through the rest of the season.
Well, they already lost Tank for a couple of games earlier, right?
That's right. That's right.
Got hurt in that Vikings game, and I don't know if he missed a game after that or 2. I'm already losing track, but that was it. And also the Texans, I should say, for this Jets game, they do catch a big break because remember how bad the weather was last year and how Stroud appeared to struggle.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, I was just thinking that. I said, why do the Texans have to go back to New York again? The same stadium, same time of year, basically, same type of conditions as last year. Man, the schedulers obviously do not like the Texans because, I thought about that when I saw the game was on the schedule. Like, what? And then I see the weather. It's going to probably be the same kind of weather. So
no. That's what I was going to say. I said they catch a break. Steven, you didn't hear me. I said they catch a break because no need to worry. The forecast is low 70s, virtually no chance of rain.
Well, we'll see. You know how that weather can change. In New York, it can get that way. But it would be nice at least to have the better kind of weather. So I'm hoping you're right.
Or you want me to check again? I checked an hour ago and we got like 48 hours to the game time.
Tell me Thursday. Tell me on Thursday that it's looking that way.
Yeah, that was a killer because that cold, I think, contributed to his concussion.
You did. Oh yeah, you hit your head on that hard ground, that turf. Oh yeah, and it's cold. Oh, it's even worse. Yeah,
no question about it. Was there anything else from the Texans game that you saw that we talked about, or you wanted to back up some of the stuff that we had mentioned in the post-game show?
Well, I know the Slowick talk is still a big part of it, Robert. And again, it's like the Kenyon Green thing. Slowick's not going anywhere, certainly not this season. So it's just something we're going to have to grin and bear until DeMeco gets tired of it, just like the whole Kenyon Green issue. Thank God for Joe Mixon. Boy, you've got to hold your breath, get on your knees, say a prayer every time he gets the ball that he doesn't get hurt again, because he is the guy. He is the machine of this Texans offense right now. No question.
Yeah, you think, okay, that means Joe Mixon is, when he runs, you think, oh, don't hit anybody hard. But that's his game. He runs guys out. What would we do if he's not piling guys over? He's boom, 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 boom,
well,
boom.
Yeah, you cringed every time Earl Campbell did that, but that's who Earl Campbell was. And these kind of power backs, that's just what they do. And Joe Mixon is a power back. He's going to run you over. You get out of his way, and he's going to make the big runs. So when he's healthy and he's in there, that's the guy you want.
Well, I cringed when Earl did it, but that was for the other guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about Earl. I am worried a lot more about Joe Mixon. And the guys are just, they're bigger and they seem bigger and stronger and faster and all that.
That's right. They certainly are from back when Earl played.
Yeah, crazy. On Monday, by the way, we're going to talk some big Astros offseason questions with our pal Greg Lucas, who spent nearly 3 decades covering Houston sports, Astros, Rockets, and more. You long-timers know that. By the way, you'll want to hear about Greg's latest book on the Astros. Also, a reminder, if you're new to Houston Sports Talk, this is our 12th season, over 300 guests. Check our Houston Sports History and Memories YouTube playlist, over 200 classic interviews with Houston sports legends. And Steven, I just can't tell everybody how cool it is to kind of go back and listen to some of that stuff and some of the great history. And we've been incredibly lucky over the years to have so many fantastic teams and fun memories.
You're right, Robert. And hats off to you for getting those interviews, because, I didn't come in here to the show until 2019. And so I wasn't in for a lot of them, but I've been listening since 2014. And I tell you what, as a member of the media and me still doing that, it is not easy to get some of those guys to come on. And so the fact that you got so many of these. And I'll tell you what else. And, you're talking about books. And I know you had Miran Fader on, and her book on Hakeem Olajuwon, is it called Dream, The Life and Legacy of Hakeem Olajuwon. I know you had her on a couple of weeks ago. Reading that book, Robert, and listening to interviews like the ones you're talking about, man, it just sends chills up my spine when I start reading about, the Rockets teams from the 80s and, the old Oilers teams and things like that. It just, reading about those players and all those memories just start surfacing, even when it was heartbreak. It just, it brings back so many wonderful things and just makes you remember all those times. There's nothing like it. So yeah, if you're a Houston sports fan that's been around a while, or even a new Houston sports fan, and you want to kind of find out what some of this history is, go back and check out those playlists, because man, it'll take you months at least to get through that with all those great shows.
Had so much fun doing some of that stuff. Keep up with everything that we do. Like I said, we always got something going on. The new memories with the Astros, the Texans, and the Rockets, of course. FYI, good job by the Cougs this weekend too for picking up another win. Utah, not the juggernaut they usually are, but for them to get another W, Willie Fritz is slowly getting it done and without much offense. So congrats to him on that one. But thanks so much, Stephen, for doing this. And you and I will catch up again next week.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.